Hello everyone, welcome back to the KMTRADERS channel. So this is the full market analysis volume 102. So again, just giving you an insight what we've got for the upcoming week, and also just comparing our last week's video too. So without further ado, just want to say hope you had a good Christmas and feeling a bit relaxed. Essentially one more week into December, so some traders might be just simply taking a break or using the time to backtest. I recommend probably doing both, and just basically getting prepared for January. So that's essentially what I'm doing personally, but again, everyone's different. But I'm still going to be obviously doing these videos on a week-to-week basis still, leading into January. So it's only 1 week anyway, so yeah, not really much difference of just doing a video per week. So yeah, without further ado, we'll start off with gold. So what we were looking at last week was the potential for price to probably start to turn up towards the upside now, and as we can see here, 21st, it started to almost turn over so nicely, so we're almost touching this high now, edging into 1820. So the anticipation of this is probably just to see if we could probably step up just a little bit more. So I'm happy with this week and what we've seen. So I think I'm probably going to still stick with my bias that we're going to potentially still look for a move towards the upside just a little bit more, and then find the edge where we see price to turn over. So we could look at something like this, something like that. That might be a nice head and shoulder pattern that might turn. So I'm not saying exactly 1850, but possibly it could come up to there, tap it, and then edge its way to the downside, because we're probably looking to anticipate price to get into the 1700s region. So again, this is all kind of valid. The sell setup is only valid unless we stay below this high here, so 1800. So for now, obviously price needs to go up, so you could still potentially look for buying opportunities to the upside before waiting to take that sell. Okay, so that's pretty much where I'm standing with gold. Let's take a look at Euro USD. So essentially what we were looking at last week was this idea that price could turn over towards the upside. So essentially the market started off on the Monday pretty much just rallying towards the upside. So I did think that price could probably make one more low before pushing high, but nonetheless that's completely fine. We can see price is nicely pushing up. I think what my plan is now from this is probably just to wait for this breakout and a retest, but essentially we could wait for price to drop a bit lower and then look at that buy scenario. So again, could look at something like this during this week, and then eventually we're expecting price to break the 1.14 barrier, and then we're gonna inspect how price reacts to this level to see if we find some rejection. So 1.15 could be a significant level too to watch out for key resistance. For myself, that's what I'm looking out for, but again, you just need to watch out. So I'm going to leave the zone on 1.12 here, and 1.14 where we could look at retest if we don't get this break, this retest lower. But if price does completely melt for whatever reason to drop to the downside, it is still technically possible that it could do. The anticipation then is for waiting for that retest to continue and pushing lower. Okay, so that's what I'm looking at for EU. Moving on to Nzd Usd. So essentially with this, we're pretty much looking for this idea that price may want to reverse, but I've got two sort of questions in mind. Got two opinions on this market for now after I've done this week's kind of analysis. So as we've broken 0.685 high, or we're pretty much seeing some sort of resistance towards it, and we're seeing a little bit sell off. The idea is that we could end up seeing price push lower. So if that does happen, we could look at price in a sell-off manner. Okay, so this is where price pretty much does something like this and continues to push lower. Okay, so the key significant part of this is if price breaks this low at 0.67, and you'd be looking for, or you'd be looking to anticipate an entry to the upside. Let me just clone this. So yeah, the entry, we're pretty much looking at like a pullback sort of trade. But my other scenario is that if price doesn't want to respect that and we start to see more bullish nature, we'll still probably see some sort of pullback to the downside, but then we'll probably see more continuations to the upside, and that's where we could then look at that scenario where we test 0.69 and this downtrend that we've got forming here. So at the same tone, we could look, technically if we're looking at this, we could look at a buy and then also take a sell just in case we see any pressure, any sell-off pressure continuing, and in that way we'll move both trades to break even if you could do that. Obviously you have to be very specific on this, but in terms of like if you really want to just wait for the market to do its thing, what I would recommend just waiting for price to do is just wait for a breakout trade, which is essentially price break into this low, so 0.67, and then look at a retest for a sell. But if we break towards the upside at 0.685, just wait for a push, a retest, and that continuation expectation. Okay, so that's probably what we could be looking out for. But this would be more kind of aggressive, and again, it really depends your trading style and what you prefer to trade. Okay, so moving on to Aud USD. So looking into this, again, there's kind of like a similar possibility that we are either going to push higher or again lower with Nzd USD, like a similar sort of situation. But comparing our last week's analysis, we see that there was that pullback, and to be honest, I was looking for more of price to drop just a bit lower, in my opinion. If we pull out a fib, wasn't really too keen on this, but just tapping into the 0.5, so that's fine, I guess. But I think what I'm looking at for more is probably just continuations to the upside. So if we get rid of this now and just kind of draw things differently, so what we could look out for is probably maybe a dip lower and then look for those buys. That's probably all I want to look out for this week. I don't really want to anticipate too much. I'll probably leave that scenario there. Get rid of this one, get rid of this one, get rid of this. Okay, so pretty much what I'm saying is we could probably look at a dip and hope to anticipate a retracement for price to continue probably into 0.73 in this area. It would be nice to see if we could tap into that, and then I probably will look and inspect what we can see from that, from a price point, see if we see any rejecting candles, etc. So yeah, we'll keep on that basis, but I'm still thinking that we could still push higher as long as we stay above 0.71, so that's around this level, around here. So yeah, we'll see what happens here. And then this second scenario that I've got drawn here is that if price is to completely melt off, the expectation is for price to enter off a retest sort of trade, retest and then bang and go sort of thing. But yeah, that's for that pair. UJ, so yeah, this has been quite interesting. So what we were looking at last week was pretty much a possibility of price to drop off a bit lower, but price never really did that. It pretty much just came in just a little bit, tested, failed to break a new low, and then completely rallied to the upside. So again, that's a nice setup there, but that's not a problem if you did miss that. So what I'm going to be looking at now is, as we can see price pushing up higher, I think it's perfectly capable now to probably start looking at some possible sell setups in the event that so that's if this level, this zone holds. So if we break above this zone, we're going to probably look for more continuations to the upside, and that would look like so. But if we start to see some sort of rejection, we could be looking at a nice sell-off trade. So I probably will get rid of this one now, because if we do see a sell-off, we should be looking to target this here. We can get rid of this, and yeah, so this is probably looking at just a little bit clearer, but Again, we could expect price to tap to the upside and then drop off, but it really is up to the market to do its thing. But yeah, we'll see what can happen with this pair. But hopefully, if we do get a sell-off here, it will actually look. It will actually be quite. Well, it'll be the risk to reward. Obviously, will be really big here. So you know, a good few hundred there. So it's about 200 or so pips there. So that's really good. Let's move on to now CAD. So CAD Jpy. Okay, so yeah, for this pair, I was actually anticipating more of a, you know, like a more of a continued, well, more of a pullback to some degree. But as you can see, price is completely dipped in. And yeah, really, what I was trying to say from last week, if I can remember, is if 88 held, it could anticipate, or it could show that price may want to respect this and push up higher. But obviously we can see that price is, you know, clearly pushing a lot higher than it wants to right now. Excuse me a second, don't know why my alerts are not going. So yeah, what I'm looking out for is pretty much sorry, just give me 1 sec. I'm looking at so yeah, what we're probably looking at for now is either to see if this is going to be a fake out or if it's going to be a continuated move. So what we could possibly see is a price to do one or two things, so we can start to look at some scenarios. So if this is a fake out, it'll drop off. If it's not, if it's a true intentional push, we should break out of this cleanly, have some sort of retest, and then look at that continuation move. It may not be that strong, but it could be. It could give like some sort of reaction where it could give you a few pips here or there, sort of thing. But yeah, my main reason for potential sells is just because we broke that 88 level. It's giving me some sort of concern that, yeah, price may have the possibility of turning over. And also adding in that confluence that we're seeing a breakout of a trend line, a major one. So that's another confluence. But again, you know, looking at how prices on here on a strong candle close, it could signify, you know, more bulls to come in. So we'll have to see, obviously. But let's take a look. I think the 90 level will be a key level to kind of watch for. But of course, this is already market moving. So you know, we're seeing a lot of well, my analysis is kind of like changing as we speak. So that's why I had that brief pause there. But so yeah, so pretty much, you know, looking at that 90 level, I might as well just draw it in quickly. So yeah, we can see that there's that support and dynamic resistance there. So that's probably that good point there. So looking into EJ, so this has completely been a nice little call, a nice buying opportunity here if you manage to get involved. So we can probably go ahead and get rid of this and probably now kind of alter, you know, what to expect from this now. So the anticipation for this is probably just to see more continuated moves and just waiting for price to show the willingness to, you know, give us a pullback to some degree, and then maybe we could look at that continuated buys. I'm not really too convinced that price could, you know, dramatically drop off all the way to the downside, so I probably will get rid of this. But yeah, we could probably anticipate price to continue to push up higher. As we can see, the retest of this is a nice one, so we start to see bullish pressure coming back in. I think this would be a good you know, opportunity to catch in on some buys. So we'll see how far this can go. I don't really know if this is going to go really far, but as I said, we'll come back to this on a week-to-week basis and see how price responds to 131 and 132. Okay, so looking at Aud Jpy, So again, the anticipation for this, as we can see, as we've got drawn out here, we was waiting for some sort of pullback. I was expecting more of a deeper one, but we can actually use this trend line here as a guidance tool. So now that we've had that pullback to some degree, so 17th last week, so we've had pretty much just all bullish price action, which was really good to see. So you can see that kind of made sense, but I was expecting just one more price break lower before price pushes up higher, but as you can see, that's fine, you know, completely pushing up higher, so it's not a problem. So in terms of our next opportunity for this pair, what I'm going to be looking for is basically just showing some sense of, you know, it may come to this to test this uptrend, and then it can show that sort of potential continuation higher. That's one possibility, but again, we're probably looking at price moving lower at some point, and that could be your buy. So I'll be waiting for some sort of move on that level, and obviously we're watching this bullish momentum kick in, so it looks quite strong. That bearish pressure here kind of was a little bit significant, and it kind of was a bit worrying to some degree, or of some concern, but we completely retraced that. So to me, I think there is some sort of bullish pressure kicking in right now, so probably will not be looking at any type of sell trades. We could look at counter trades if you really do want to squeeze some trades in. You know, there is still technically 100 pips to play off within this range, so I would consider it if that's up to you, if you really want to get involved like that. But yeah, really just want to see what price does. I think we have to wait just a little bit more before we can get into that pullback and then anticipate that buy. Okay. So looking into USD Chef, so this has been completely range bound, completely choppy. Again, the expectation from last week was price to, you know, push to the upside and then completely fall off to the downside, which it has done. So I'm gonna get rid of, try clear some of these drawings up. So what we can see here is we can get rid of this scenario right now, actually, because as we can see, price is stepping lower. So what I'm looking at now is probably looking for price to come into 0.915. And again, the anticipation is that we're looking for buys now. There is the possibility that price could significantly move higher to some degree. It doesn't necessarily mean that price is going to come to the exact point where I've placed this turning point, but we're coming to like a level where we could expect some deeper change. So 0.91, if we get basically if we get a break lower than this level, I'll be looking for sells, and then, you know, looking at retests. But if, as long as we stay above this zone, we should be able to, well, I will be looking for buying opportunities to at least test into 0.93. So this could be like the next little rally that I'll be anticipating, and probably we could even enter 0.94 as well. So that's a long way off, obviously, so this won't happen all in one go, but yeah, it will take some time, so just keep that in mind. But yeah, both buying opportunities and then a sell-off opportunity if we start to break this low. Okay, so finally for this week's video or this week's analysis is USD Cad. So what I was potentially looking at here was utilizing the uptrend here. Ultimately, I think that we was looking for 1.925 to hold, and now that we had a break towards the upside, I don't think we discussed this, but I think based on how price is tapping into the upside and showing the willingness to push higher from based on these legs here to the upside, I think my bias is now switched towards the upside, and I'm going to look for those. I'm going to anticipate some buying options. So what we could look potentially at is maybe on this uptrend here, we could get a manipulation, so where price, you know, may break it and then continues to rally up. that's what I will ideally be looking at. And then I've got 1.26 as my significant zone of interest, where we are, you know, paying more of attention towards it. So again, the nice dynamic resistance support. So it can fall into this range here and then potentially reverse towards the upside. So the anticipation is for the price to reach eventually into 1.295 as long as we stay above this zone. Okay, so it's got a lot of breathing room, and to be honest, it can actually, you could be looking at some sell-off opportunities. You know, you could squeeze maybe 100 pips out of this very quickly, or very you know, you'd have to be quite accurate with it, but ultimately I will be trying to look at some buying opportunities with this pair. So we are coming into next week, which is New Year's, and bearing in mind when January starts we have the NFP, so I would probably, you know, give yourself a bit more of a break. I mean, it's up to you when you choose to start. But yeah, there's I think that this is your, obviously, like I said at the start of the video, to do some back testing and just to check out your strategy before the new year, because obviously December time there's a lot of slowdown in pace, I guess, or a lot of momentum slowing down, and obviously get yourself ready for the whole new year of trading. And as you say, the market doesn't sleep and the market doesn't leave, so it's always going to be here, sort of thing. So just use this time to relax and spend some time with family and loved ones and all of that, and yeah, make sure you kind of do a little bit of back testing just to help yourself for next year. Okay, so that's all I've got to say for this week's video. I think my next video will be in the New Year's time, so I might as well wish everyone a happy new year. Make sure you set your goals for this up and coming year, and I wish you all a good 2022 start. So that'll be all from us. Thank you very much for listening, guys, and we'll see you all in our next week's video.